Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and for the first 19 years of my life, I thought I had money and also relationships basically figured out, okay? I thought I knew exactly how everything was going to work until I got a long-term girlfriend. And I said to myself, well, I'm gonna put everything I know about money and relationships into action, and it should work out perfectly. Well, guess what? Things failed miserably. Everything went wrong. The plane came down crashing. Nothing made sense, okay? So, I'm making this video today, guys, to tell you all my mistakes. This way you avoid them. This way you know exactly how I went from being that 90-year-old that thought he knew everything, but in reality knew nothing, to now I'm a lot older, a lot wiser. And not because, hey, I learned a lot of stuff, because basically, I learned from the correct people. Now, although I had, for example, a beautiful, amazing, love and caring mom, like she did everything, okay? She's an amazing mom. But I did not grow up in a balanced home. My mom and my dad did not work out. I never knew exactly what a household looks like with a good dad, a great mom. I already had that, but I didn't know how that actually worked out. So I had to go out there and learn from people that had a great marriage, for not for just like 5 years or 3 years, but for 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years. And on top of that, I had to go out there and read books about everything. This way, I learned exactly, hey, Tommy, here are your mistakes. Here's what you're missing out. This way, I learned more and more and more. So in this video, you learn about all of my mistakes, but more importantly, about all the correct things to actually do when it comes to a marriage or, for example, a great relationship, okay? And by the way, I wish I saw this video when I was 19 years old and I thought I knew everything, because I didn't know anything whatsoever. Now, if you guys are new here, guys, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you're notified, because basically, I post videos every single day. And on top of that, make sure to go ahead and like this video, because basically, it does help a lot with the YouTube stuff and also the algorithm. Now, the very first thing is this, guys, okay? I have to be honest here. Everything I know about relationships and money is a collection of information from very smart and very proven people. So basically, what I know is from people that basically have been married for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and I put it into practice. This way I know exactly how to handle my relationship and how to grow with my partner. Now, the idea is I recommend 4 books if you want to basically dive into everything, because although this video is all about money, and money is a big part of it, okay, it does not mean money is everything. And by the way, okay, for everyone that says basically, Tommy, 50% of people get divorced, so maybe I don't want to go ahead and get married. The answer is, that's not a hint not to get married. That's a hint to make sure whoever you do marry is the right person and you know exactly what to expect from that marriage, okay? That's the whole idea. A lot of people do not become wealthy, but does that mean you don't go out there and try and learn? The answer is no. It means, hey, sit down, learn the knowledge, apply it, and you'll become wealthy by accumulating wealth step by step, okay? Just because everyone else is failing does not mean that you are going to fail and that you should not try to chase your happiness or whatever you actually want, okay? Now, guys, when it comes to marriage, there are 4 things you want to take a look at, okay? And that's usually money, kids, in-laws, and also religion, spiritual beliefs, okay? So these 4 things are the main 4 things you want to worry about when it comes to having a successful marriage. And people usually do not worry about any of these things. People get married and they don't know if that person wants kids. People get married and they don't know if that person believes in the same thing that they believe in. People get married and they don't know how they're going to deal with their bad family members or whatever it is. And on top of that, people get married and they don't know how they're going to deal with money. And that's where you see a lot of divorces. Now, if you want the full picture and everything, well, this video is just about money, I'm sorry, but the idea is that I want you to consider reading this book right here, okay? It's called The Meaning of Marriage by Timothy Keller. On top of that, here's another great book by Gary Thomas, The Sacred Search, and on top of that, 9 must-have conversations for a doubt-free wedding day. And there's also a 4th book, and it's called 21 Conversations You Actually Want to Have Before You Go Ahead and Save the Date for Marriage by Dr. Paul Friesen, okay? Now, all these 4 books are going to teach you the full picture when it comes to marriage, because again, it's not just about money, but this channel is about money, and that's why I'm telling you all the details when it does come to money. Now, the first thing is this, guys. When it comes to a relationship and also money, the most important thing is basically, are you guys on the same page when it comes to money? Are you guys heading in the correct direction? And by the way, okay, it's not always perfect. It's not always going to be perfect because, by the way, when I first met my girlfriend, I was a spender and she was also a spender, but for different reasons. And I'll tell you more about that later. But the idea is that we both know exactly where we're going today. The idea is we both want financial freedom. And to us, that means, hey, we want to have passive income come in, enough to actually live off. On top of that, we actually want a paid for house for security. We also want to make sure everything is taken care of. And on top of that, we want to make sure that if we have a job and we actually work, it's because we want to, not because we actually need to. There's a big difference there. Now, that is what financial freedom actually means to us. But initially, it was not that easy. We had to figure out exactly, as a 19-year-old couple, what we were going to do. And by the way, yes, I'm still with that same girl when I was 19 years old. It's been around 5 years and I'm very happy because of it, okay? We've learned so much and that's amazing for me. However, initially, she was a spender and I was also a spender, believe it or not, okay? Tommy, you're so cheap. What are you a spender, okay? What do you spend, like $1? No, I was actually a spender. And I was spending because basically, I didn't know what to do with all the extra money I had. So I grabbed it and I spent it. Now she spent for a different reason, and that was emotionally. Whenever she got a certain way or didn't know what to do or was frustrated, she just went out there and spent money. So we needed to find out exactly, well, how do we deal with these emotions with not a spending thing? You don't want to spend money. What you want is to basically figure out exactly what's going on. Now, eventually and thankfully, we figured this out. However, it did not happen overnight, okay? It wasn't like, hey, I woke up, I'm not a spender. Babe, stop, don't spend any more money. No, it was kind of like, hey, I started learning that, hey, I don't want to be broke. I don't like having a bunch of debt. I don't want to have this problem. And then the flip switch when I started learning more and more about money. And once I learned about it, I then spoke to my girlfriend and said, hey, here's what's important to me. Here's why I want this, and here's why also I think this is important for us to actually achieve as a couple together. And then, step by step, slowly by the way, it took months sometimes, to actually get to the same picture. To say, hey, Tommy, I understand that. Here was my problem, now let's work on actually fixing this. But we had to get on the same page initially. And the only way that works is basically if we have a full conversation and we express exactly how we feel about the entire thing. No conversation is not going to lead to a good relationship, good girlfriend, good marriage, good partner. It's just going to be terrible. However, guys, my tip is this, guys, okay? I've seen people break up because, hey, this guy or this girl is way too cheap. I don't like them. Or for example, this guy or this girl only worries about tomorrow and does not want to worry about having fun today, okay? And by the way, I noticed one thing. This comes from insecurity, instability, and also fear, and also scarcity, where you think that, hey, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm so unsure of it, and that's why I want to go ahead and spend all my money today and just live for today. So it's very important you get on the same page. Now, you have to understand that basically sometimes the person you're with currently is not going to be the same page. Now, that's when you have a conversation. But even after that, you give it time to settle in and time to say, hey, honey or babe, whatever you want to call them, okay? Here's why I think this is important for the both of us. Now, at some point, for some of you out there, that might not work. That person might be stuck in their ways. And the worst thing is trying to change someone when they do not want to. People do not change if they don't want to. The answer is you might have to go ahead and walk away from that relationship no matter how painful it actually is. You don't want to live with someone where basically you're trying to get financial freedom and they're trying to pull you back constantly. It's like walking or running with a rock behind your back. It is not going to work out. And although it's painful, it's best if you go your separate ways, okay? Now, the second thing is this, guys. Tell me, but what about actual money? Like, how do you handle it? Do you have a joint account or, for example, a separate account? Me currently right now, one thing I've learned is this, okay? When you are just with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a friend you know that you actually like, the answer is you never get a joint account. That's very complicated because basically, if that person passes away, now you have a joint account, not with them, they're gone, now with their parents, and that can be a whole different issue. Now, usually, you only want to do this with your partner. You're actually married, actually together. That's when you actually go ahead and get a joint account. So till this day, we have separate accounts. However, we are working towards the same goal. But when we do get married, around 2001, not 2001, around 2021, April, that's when the wedding should be held, because basically she wants to get married like around that time or whatever. But yeah, like next year we'll be getting married and so on. But the idea is that, since I was a kid, if I'm being honest here, I was told this one thing directly and also indirectly. Well, way more than one thing. And it was basically, hey Tommy, gold diggers, be careful. There's a lot of them. Keep your phone locked at all times. Don't get married. That's a bad idea. They'll take half your stuff. On top of that, women are spenders. They want all your money. And I was like, and I actually thought that subconsciously in some way, because basically that's what I grew up actually learning. However, what's the point of getting married or being with someone if you're going to act like teaming forces, right? Like once you get married, you're joining teams, like you're joining forces, right? So what's the point of joining forces when you're going to act as separate entities, as separate people, separate individuals? It's like having 4 hands, but only using 2. To me, that sounds very stupid today, although back then it didn't sound that stupid, because basically that's what videos showed me, that's what movies showed me, that's what indirectly some of my family members actually teach me. Now that is not what you want. That is not the concept you actually want. So here's exactly what I'm going to do and what the plan is when I actually get married. The first thing is, yes, we're going to have joint accounts, meaning we're going to share our money. Well, our money is our money. There's no longer like your money and my money. You make this, we keep everything separate. You spend on this, I spend on this. No, we're joining forces because basically we're going towards the same goal, and you have to be on that same page. By the way, you're not always going to agree on everything, and that's why you need to have conversations about everything. This way, hey, here's how we're going to deal with this. But my answer is this, guys, okay? We're going to have one joint account. We're going to receive all the money we actually make. It's kind of like the landing account, okay? And from there, we're going to distribute all the money accordingly, automatically. And the idea is that the first thing we have to worry about is basically what is going to be our emergency account for the both of us. Meaning, if you lose your job or I lose my job, what is going to happen? Well, we need money on the side. Now, that money is going to be also in a joint account, but separate from the spending money. This way, everything's taken care of, and this way also, we are not tempted to go ahead and spend that money on something else. That's not what you want to do. It's just for emergencies, just for security. And also, on top of that, what about investing, right? How do you invest? The answer is we're going to have one joint taxable account, okay? That's one joint investment account. Today, we have separate accounts, but the answer is we are investing into the same things. Once we get married, we combine everything. However, we will have separate Roth IRAs and also 401ks. You cannot basically invest into those things. They have to be separate by law, and that's why they will remain separate. But the answer is we will be investing between 20 to 25% of our income basically in our investments. And again, she's okay with this. Why? Because she knows, hey, our goal is to become financially free. Our goal is to have more passive income come in that we actually can spend. This way, we can actually go ahead and enjoy life more. We are on the same page when it comes to investing. We will have joint accounts. Now, thirdly, debt. We want to go ahead and pay debt automatically. Now, by the way, more on this later. Do you pay her debt? Does she pay your debt? How does that work? Is your debt your debt? Is my debt, but you bought this? I didn't want this? Well, the answer is more on that later, but we will pay our debts automatically. But, we don't plan on having any debt whatsoever, but we'll talk about that more later because currently we do have debt, and I'll tell you exactly how we're actually going to deal with that later on in the video. But if you're married and you do have debt, the answer is I would pay between 26 to 46% of our money basically going towards debt payments automatically. This will be finished a lot faster. On top of that, when it comes to expenses, we'll keep that money in our joint account where all the money is received. This way, we spend that money for like the bills, the food, the rent, or the mortgage, whatever it is. Then you have a fun account. A separate account just for going out there and having fun, okay? Around 5%. This way we have money there to go on dates every single week. That's what I want to do. Whether we have kids or no kids, I want to go ahead and take my wife then on a date every single week and spend time together, just us. This way we have like that special moment every single week, whether we're mad or happy, whatever it is, every single week I want to make that commitment. And lastly, charity. and like put into charity like around 1% of our money to then go ahead and say, hey, we want to do the same charity or separate ones. Doesn't matter, but the point is we also want to practice giving in our relationship. That's basically what we're going to do, guys, when it comes to money. One landing account, we're investing together, we're also paying debts, on top of managing everything. But the answer is we're operating as a team. That's what it's supposed to be. However, you don't want to do this with a girlfriend or someone you have kids with but you're not married with. That's not a good idea. Once you're married and fully committed, that's when you want to go ahead and take these steps. And by the way, if you don't trust a person to do this, well, that might be a clue that maybe you don't want to be with that person, right? Because if I don't trust you with money, then why would I trust you with my entire life, right? It's like a whole thing. Because in sickness and in health, in richness or poorness, whatever you want to call it, but the idea is it's an overall package. It's not just money. It's if I don't trust you here, why would I trust you with everything else? Okay, so you have to make sure you're on the same page when it comes to this. But again, do not do this with a girlfriend or someone you know, blah, blah, blah. The answer is no. Only do this with a wife, someone you're already on the same page with, okay? Now, the third conversation or question is basically, Tommy, but what about debt? She has debt, I have debt. How do we handle it? Do we pay together? What happens here? But she bought this, I bought this, I didn't want that. The answer is, well, that's pretty easy. And the idea is that, you know what? Yesterday, we were at Burlington, me and my girlfriend. It's like a store, like everything's on discount. I love discount stuff. But the answer is, you know what? We saw this lady, well, we heard this lady because we were basically in a line because, you know, the pandemic and so on, like the line was like around 45 to an hour, and we were there, and the lady's like, you know what, I spent $1,700 on an iPad for my son. I bought this gift, I bought this right here, and I was like, this woman must be in so much debt. And by the way she spoke, I can tell when somebody is in debt, right? I can just tell because basically I've been doing this for a very long time now. And the idea is that what do you do if your partner is buying things you might not agree with and is getting into debt? How do you handle that then? Well, the first thing is, well, correctly, here's what I have and the problem I have currently with my girlfriend. The answer is she has student loan debt and so do I, but because basically I'm not going to pay it until they charge me interest because basically it's free right now, right? But when they charge me interest, I'll go ahead and pay it. Now, the idea is I would not go ahead and pay my girlfriend's student loan debt. I would only do that for a wife. That's different. You don't want to do that stuff with a girlfriend. Those things might break off. You don't know what's going to happen. When you're married, that's a different conversation. But the answer is that we know where we're heading. But once we're married, again, we are a team. So again, whatever you have, I also have. It's together. So whatever debt she has, I'll go ahead, we'll grab our money together, just like I told you before. And the answer is we'll go ahead and pay off that debt together. That's the core idea in sickness and in health, in wealth and in poverty. I think that's how you say it, okay? But the answer is, yeah, we'll handle that debt together. However, if I am in a marriage or a relationship with someone that's spending money on a lot of trash, or for example, things that I don't think are important, the answer is, well, that must mean we're not on the same page. That must mean we need to talk about this. And that must mean that, hey, if you're spending all this money and going into massive debts and you're not talking to me about it, well, that might mean, hey, we have a massive problem with this relationship. And that's like a marriage counseling thing if you're married. But if you're with a girlfriend, you talk about this stuff and that might tell you, hey, maybe I don't want to marry this person because basically they're not going to want to talk to me about this stuff when we're actually going ahead and getting married. Again, when you're getting married, you're not basically saying, hey, I found this girl, she's cute, you know, we work together and that's about it, let's get married. No, you got to be on the same page on everything before you actually go ahead and get married. It's like the most important decision of your life, right? So you have to make sure everything is on the same page. But correctly, the answer is whatever debt you have, you pay together. That's the idea. But if you have, for example, a problem with that person spending a lot of money, the answer is that's marriage counseling that you need to figure out. And if you can't figure that out, you might want to go ahead and say, hey, what's going on here? Do I want to be here? But again, you try to solve this because usually spending money like crazy is a symptom of something else that you actually want to figure out. Just like back then, me, I was spending because basically I did not know what to do. My girlfriend spent because basically emotionally she had that issue. But then we fixed those issues and we no longer do that. And by the way, she had a credit card debt. She paid that off herself. I had credit card debt, I pay that off myself. Again, as girlfriends and boyfriends, we pay things separately. When we get married, we pay them together, but again, we have to be on the same page. You don't want to be married to someone when they're doing everything that you don't want to do. That's a terrible idea. Now, lastly, guys, and by the way, this video is amazing. I'm having fun here. It's basically prenups. Do you get a prenup or do you not get a prenup? The answer is, well, I'm not gonna get a prenup, and I'll tell you why in a few seconds. But the answer is, I learned very early on that, by the way, I won't get a prenup, but I would ask my wife to get a prenup, and I'll tell you why later in the video. Okay, this is very interesting, by the way. But the answer is, I learned very early on from Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and people that I actually look up to, that the answer is, if you have to marry someone and you need maybe like a 50 to 100-page contract, the answer is maybe that's a sign that you actually don't want to marry that person. Maybe it's a sign that maybe this is not going to work out, okay? I don't want to marry someone when I need basically like 100 or 1,000 pages to go ahead and basically say, hey, all right, now we can get married. But by the way, prenups are important, and I only recommend them under these circumstances here, okay? Let's say, for example, you're successful, very successful, a woman or a man, and all of a sudden you have a lot of people trying to approach you saying, hey, you know what, your hair is so nice and all this stuff. You're successful and that person is not, okay? But you love them. But again, before you get married, you want to check off all the lists in all these books, because again, it's a big decision. But if you want to do it anyways, the answer is you get a prenup, because basically you don't know what that person's intentions are. And although you have butterflies, the answer is that's not going to last more than 18 months. And once that 18 months passes, do you still love this person? The answer is you don't know. So you might want to go ahead and get a prenup to protect yourself. And if they love you, they'll probably do it too. However, here's why I would ask my wife to go ahead and get a prenup. Now, the idea is that not a prenup with me, but when we get married, there won't be a prenup, okay? We'll get married together. No prenup, none of that stuff. But the idea is that basically, if something happens to me, guys, okay, by chance, okay, something happens to me, I'm not here tomorrow, I leave my family, my kids, all this stuff. Thinking about it makes me kind of like worried. But if something like that happens, the answer is, and my wife wants to get remarried, I would say, you know what, get a prenup. Because this way, you know what, I left behind maybe a lot of money. We have kids. Just make sure when you remarrying, that person has no bad intentions. And you're also like a widow, right? Because you might not know where your head is at. So the answer is, you want to get a prenup. This way, not just you, but also our kids are protected. So this way, if anything happens that doesn't work out, the answer is that's fine, because basically we have a foundation already set. This way our kids are protected. So again, a widow, usually I would say, yeah, get a prenup. That's important stuff. If you're successful and you're marrying someone that's not successful, or maybe has like a very imbalance of success, the answer is you might want to go ahead and get a prenup. However, Warren Buffett, once he remarried, he didn't get a prenup either, I think, okay? But the answer is you want to think about this thoroughly, because he was with that lady for a very, very long time, okay? Now, there's one example I'm going to hear about in the comments. So I want to tackle this now. And the answer is, Tommy, but what about Jeff Bezos? Jeff Bezos got married, 25 years, got divorced, and the wife took around, I think it was around 38 or $36 billion. And by the way, she didn't take anything. It's just that the share that she actually deserved, okay? And I'll tell you this. I can't comment on their relationship, but the answer is, there's always a chance that things are not going to work out, okay? But the idea is that Jeff responded by saying this, okay? Although we got divorced after 25 years, if I knew this 25 years earlier, I would still do it all over again. That's how cool this actually is. Money is important. It is. But it's not the only thing. And that's why, I don't want to get a prenup. That's not for me, But if you are in a situation where basically you're a widow, or basically it's very successful and that person basically kind of not, you might want to get ahead and get a prenup. That's the core idea. But when I'm getting married, the person I picked after going through this whole thing, the answer is, that's the person that's for me. You don't get married and cross fingers and hope. You basically identify someone you actually want is going to be a good partner, and then you go ahead and marry. Okay? It's not a lovey-dovey thing. It's not, I was walking across the street and I saw this person. It's not that. Yeah, it's purposeful, right? You have to pick the right person. And that's why I gave you guys this advice. Now, guys, overall, this video is long, but I had a lot of fun making it. And I hope it helps you guys in some way. And I hope you don't become the 19-year-old Tommy making all those mistakes. Oh, girls are gold diggers. Keep everything separate. Your money's my money. This and that. Very bad concept, okay? But guys, and again, also learn from people that have been married for a very, very long time, okay? I know people that do everything opposite that I told you, okay? They have kids, they're not married. Everything is separate, and they have a terrible marriage. Some people actually do. They're fine, okay? But the answer is, decide exactly what you want for yourself. And also decide basically, hey, these are the things that are going to make my marriage a lot more successful, and you follow that. That's the idea, guys, okay? I'll see you guys next time. And any comments, comment down below. Let me know, guys, do you want to get a prenup or are you not going to get a prenup? Comment down below. Let me know. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. And as always, like the video if you liked it. On top of that, also, subscribe and hit the bell to get notified if you're new here. And on top of that, if you want to text me or talk to me one-on-one, join my Patreon, link down below, or send me a DM on Instagram at TommyBryson. And before I go, if you want to watch a full video on how I invest my money, here's the video right here, and click my face right now. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.